Day 10 of the terrifying heat wave. To protect the last remaining supplies, I held up a kitchen knife, facing off against those greedy eyes. But who would have thought? My best friend secretly gave the supplies to outsiders behind my back. When caught, she turned it around and guilt-tripped me.
What's more important, supplies or lives? Yeah, when did you become so selfish?
Because of that one sentence, I was ostracized by the entire neighborhood. Even my own son saw me as a disgrace. He pushed me off the balcony when I wasn't looking. But fate gave me a second chance. When I opened my eyes again, I was back before the apocalypse. Why are you buying so much stuff again on stock-up day? My husband Linyu frowned at the kitchen filled with bottled water. His brow furrowed as he questioned me.
Didn't one say it already? It's just a heat wave warning. Hoarding like this. It's just stirring up panic.
I suppressed the sarcasm in my eyes. Last life was the same. My husband and son called me ignorant, then handed all the supplies to Zhou to manage. To keep up her kind-hearted image, Zhou generously gave everything away. Reborn, I'm wide awake now. You're right. It's just a bit hotter than usual. Summer's always been like this. I'll return all this stuff later. Before my husband could react, I grabbed the supplies and walked out. Not for anything else. Just to spite those ungrateful father and son. They thought I was overreacting? This time, let's see how they'll maintain their pathetic image in the apocalypse without my hard-earned supplies. After loading the trunk, I checked my phone. The neighborhood group chat was buzzing. Everyone was talking about the supermarket frenzy.
Did you finish all the salt hoarded years ago? I bet it's just fake news spread by manufacturers to make a quick buck. The government should crack down on these shady businesses. They'll say anything for profit. Today, someone even claimed the apocalypse is coming, urging everyone to hoard supplies. Zhou
chimed in.
Neighbors, I don't even have bottled water at home.
I smirked, turned off my phone. Hours later, I followed the location sent by the agent, finally arrived at the destination and got off the car. A surge of scorching heat instantly hit my face. The agent was already sweating profusely from the heat.
This house belongs to an elderly couple. They moved abroad with their son a few years ago, leaving the house vacant. The rent is $3,000 a month, with 1 month's deposit and 3 months rent up front. If you think it's okay, let's sign the contract now.
The agent said while pulling out the keys. Looking at the surveillance at the door and the walls, just based on this, the score of this house in my mind has already reached 80 points. Later, I can place a row of animal traps along the base of the wall, and that will block most intruders. Not to mention, this small villa also comes with a basement. So I directly decided on this house. After sending the agent away, I drove to the nearest supermarket. I bought a large amount of mineral water and drinks. The boss quickly printed the receipt and asked if I needed home delivery. I shook my head and refused directly. The basement's location, the more people know, the more dangerous it becomes after the apocalypse. So I'd rather work harder myself. Then, I drove back and forth to several large supermarkets, stocking up on supplies that would last me for years. Next, I lied to my husband again, saying I wouldn't be back for a few days due to overtime work. The next day, I went to the farmer's market, specifically picking items that could be stored for a long time, like cured meat and potatoes. After another fruitful trip, I received a call from my son, Lin Feng. What's up? My son didn't notice the coldness in my tone. Instead, he excitedly said, and Wanro said,
It's so hot, she's worried the elderly in the neighborhood might get heat stroke, so she suggested making some mung bean soup and delivering it. Come back and make the mung bean soup. I want to do good deeds with Aunt Wanro.
I'm at work, no time. Mom.
How can you be like this? Can't you be as kind as Aunt Wanro?
Since you like Zhou Wanro so much, why don't you go be her son? I couldn't be bothered to humor him, and directly hung up on my son. Then, I prepared to go out and continue stocking up on supplies. However, the sky had already turned orange red by then. The relentless heat had even started melting the asphalt roads. Even the trees on both sides of the road were withered from the heat. So I waited until the sun went down, then went and bought over 50 barrels of drinking water. Only then did I sit down, satisfied, to rest. But when I checked the outside temperature on my phone, seeing the scorching 46 degrees, my hand trembled slightly. Seeing the basement packed with supplies, my tense mood finally calmed down. At the same time, the stun baton I ordered online arrived. It's 1 meter long, feeling like a baseball bat in hand. According to the seller, this baton's maximum current can even knock out a cow. But the downside is obvious. One charge lasts only 4 or 5 uses. Just then, my phone rang. It was my husband calling.
Wait, what's wrong with you? The water dispenser is empty, and you didn't even bother to replace it.
My husband started with accusations right away. His entitled tone made me laugh angrily. The water station's number is posted on the property notice board. You're a grown man, can't you call them yourself? Besides, didn't we just replace the water last week? That was 3 whole buckets, which you guys use like bath water. Hearing my words, my husband sounded guilty. But even if he didn't say it, I knew everything. Although I haven't been home these days, every move the father and son made was captured by the living room camera. These past 2 days, Zhou Wanro delivered mung bean soup to the neighborhood, and they used bottled water for it. But what does that have to do with me? If it's that bad, just drink tap water.
Is that even drinkable?
My husband's voice was irritated.
Xiaoping's throat is already hoarse. Hurry up and figure something out.
I sneered. Then go find Zhou Wanro. Isn't she the most compassionate? She definitely wouldn't let you and your son go thirsty. Hearing my words, my husband angrily hung up. I raised an eyebrow and tossed my phone onto the bed. If I remember correctly, the temperature will skyrocket tomorrow morning, with the day's high reaching a terrifying 58 degrees. At dawn the next day, the temperature began to rise rapidly. This time, my husband was truly desperate. Early in the morning, he sent me a message.
The water station called. They said drinking water is sold out. Come back now and bring a few cases of bottled water.
I glanced at it, ignored it, and got out of bed. I started doing a final check. The stun baton was placed within easy reach. and the supplies on the storage shelf were neatly arranged. As long as I use the supplies here sparingly, they'll last me a year or two easily. Meanwhile, social media was in an uproar.
When will this damn weather end? The elderly and children at home are almost passing out from the heat. Why is the property management so useless? They actually cut the power at a critical moment.
Joanro also sent a few voice messages, her tone soothing as she told everyone not to panic.
Let's think of a solution together. I still have a few bottles of water here. Anyone short on water can come get some from me.
Even at a time like this, she still maintains her image of being kind and beautiful. I was about to turn off my phone when my husband called. This time, his tone carried a hint of pleading.
Come back quickly. This heat is really not normal. Xiaofeng is already starting to suffer from heat stroke.
Then my son's voice came through, saying,
Mom, please come back. I miss you.
Hearing this, I couldn't help but fall silent. If you have heat stroke, go to the hospital. What good is calling me? I hung up on my husband without hesitation, ignoring his frustration on the other end. In the following days, the temperature soared to a terrifying 56 degrees, but hiding in the basement, I actually felt a bit chilly, so I had to put on a long-sleeved shirt. Influenced by Joanro, many neighbors naively believed this extreme weather would pass soon, so they didn't stock up on much supplies. By the time they realized something was wrong, all the supermarkets were already out of bottled water. Fights over a single bottle of water were happening constantly in the neighborhood. Meanwhile, I used a fake account to pose as a desperate resident, easily stirring up everyone's anger. We shouldn't have listened to Joanro in the first place. She said the heat would pass soon, and now look at us. Not a single bottle of water stocked up. How are we supposed to survive? Instantly, the residents' group chat exploded. Accusations flew back and forth.
Exactly. My elderly and kids are almost collapsing from the heat. She acts all kind and beautiful, but we're the ones suffering.
I kept pushing, uploading screenshots of Joanro telling everyone not to hoard supplies. This time, the group chat went completely wild. Joanro tried to defend herself at first,
Saying, let's think of a solution together. We'll get through this.
but her words were instantly drowned out by angry responses.
If it weren't for your confident claim that we didn't need to stock up on supplies, we wouldn't be in this mess. You better fix this problem ASAP, or you won't get off easy either.
At this very moment, Joanro was completely panicked. She called her husband, Linyu, her voice trembling with sobs.
Linyu, you have to help me.
But in this life, without me stockpiling supplies in advance, her husband could barely take care of himself, let alone her. Around 6 p.m., as soon as the sun set, the furious neighbors stormed straight into Joanro's home. Old Sun, who usually seemed the kindest, led the charge, but now, his face was twisted with rage.
What did you say back then? That the heat would pass soon? Told us not to hoard supplies? Well, look at us now. My whole family has no water left. You owe us an explanation.
Exactly. My grandson even got heat stroke. If we hadn't believed your nonsense, we wouldn't be in this state.
Everyone shouted over each other, trapping Joanro inside her home. Joanro was now utterly panicked.
I didn't think it would get this bad.
But her voice was instantly drowned out by furious accusations. Hearing the commotion, my husband and son rushed over to try and calm everyone down.
Everyone, calm down. Blaming her won't help now. Let's work together to find another solution.
You're still defending her? If you and your son hadn't been praising her every day, so many of us wouldn't have been misled.
Her husband was instantly silenced. Her son hid behind him, too scared to make a sound. I watched the scene on the surveillance feed, expressionless. A mocking smile slowly curled up my lips. This is human nature. In my past life, because I stockpiled supplies early, Joanro not only used my supplies to quell everyone's anger but also gained their favor. This time, I want to see how long her kind and beautiful act can last without my stockpile. As temperatures kept rising, those without supplies started plotting desperate moves. And my husband called me again. My son sobbed an apology over the phone.
Mom, I was wrong. I won't recklessly help others again. Please come back and save us.
Watching my disheveled husband and son, a hint of satisfaction flickered in my heart. After all, in my past life, they abandoned me without hesitation. But without hesitation, all transportation has stopped now. How am I supposed to get back? Besides, back then, didn't you hand over the supplies to Joanro to manage? Go ask her for them.
She can barely take care of herself now. Where would she have anything left for us? Yeah, we were husband and wife after all. Can you really stand by and watch me die?
Hearing this, my eyes grew a little moist. Back when you couldn't stop talking about Joanro every day, did you ever stop to think that we were the ones who were married?
I admit I was a jerk in the past. Even if you won't forgive me. What about Xiaofeng? He's your own flesh and blood.
As he spoke, our son let out a loud wail over the phone and started crying uncontrollably.
I really know I was wrong, Mom. Please don't abandon me. I promise I'll be good and listen to you from now on.
Hearing my son's sobs through the phone, I couldn't help but fall silent. This instantly gave my husband a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, if you just help us this once. I'll listen to everything you say from now on. We can live happily as a family. By the way, didn't you take some supplies last time without returning them? I remember there was food and drinks. In there, enough for our whole family.
Listening to my husband grow more and more excited, I had to cut him off. What about Joanro then? Before he could finish, my husband suddenly realized he'd said the wrong thing. Hearing this, I hung up the phone without another word. My husband was left stunned. Only when the screen in front of him went completely dark did he realize what he'd just lost. But the peace didn't last long, because that day, I spotted a familiar figure on the surveillance feed. Day 3 of the extreme heat apocalypse. My husband and son were at home, on the verge of dying of thirst, while I was holed up alone in the basement, stocked with supplies, sipping ice drinks, eating hot pot, and singing to myself. But that night, to my surprise, I saw someone familiar on the surveillance feed outside, standing right at my doorstep. And this person was none other than the agent who'd rented me this little house. My heart instantly leaped into my throat. Because in this world, only that agent knew I lived here. But the agent lingered around the house, her eyes occasionally darting toward the front door, as if hesitating about something. After a while, she seemed to make up her mind.
Ms. Yu, are you there? It's me, Agent Shally.
I'm not here to harm you. If it's just me alone. With the stun gun I bought online, I was pretty confident I could subdue her. What worried me was the possibility that she had other accomplices looking out of sight. Unfortunately, the surveillance only covered the area near the gate.
Ms. Yu, I know you're in there. Please have a heart. Just give me something to eat, even a single bite. I promise I'll leave right after. I won't disturb you.
After speaking, the agent deliberately glanced at the surveillance camera. A sudden thought struck me. What if the agent was deliberately drawing my attention to the gate? To others, the basement might seem well hidden, but the agent already knew about it. If they cornered me in the basement, the thought sent a chill down my spine. I tightened my grip on the stun gun and stepped out of the basement. Almost the moment I emerged, a loud crash echoed outside. My pupils dilated. I quickly hid in the bathroom, clutching the stun gun.
Are you sure this is the place?
No mistake. I saw that woman buy truckloads of supplies myself.
The agent's voice dripped with malice.
Once we get those supplies, we're set. There.
The conversation made my heart sink. They were clearly prepared for this. If I fell into their hands, what would happen to me? I didn't need to imagine. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. There were 2 of them, so my only chance was to catch them off guard. Take them down with the stun gun in one swift move. Now wasn't the time to reveal myself. I had to wait until they were both inside. Their target was clear. They headed straight for the basement.
Damn it, it's locked.
The man pulled out a wrench and smashed it against the door. Seizing the moment while their backs were turned, their focus entirely on the door, I cranked the stun gun to maximum. I burst out of the bathroom, ZZZT. The crackle of electricity filled the air. The sudden noise startled them both. Before they could react, my stun gun struck the man's arm. He convulsed violently and collapsed. Seeing the tide turn, the agent spun to flee, but I wasn't about to let him escape. The stun gun slammed into his back. A second later, he too writhed on the ground. Weak and helpless, the agent begged, "Sis.
We were just starving. I had no choice but to resort to this desperate measure.
Yes, please let us go. We promise we'll never do this again."
Seeing their pitiful and wretched state, I closed my eyes. Reading my key, I hated to say again. If I let them go, they'd surely bring more people back for revenge. In this collapsed order of the apocalypse, I couldn't take that risk. I couldn't afford to gamble. But what I never expected was, a few days later, Joanro reached out to me.
Yeah, please save me. The people in the neighborhood said if I don't give them water, they'll drain my blood to quench their thirst.
Hearing Joanro's words, I frowned, staring at the unfamiliar number on my screen. Since the last call from my husband, I had blocked all of them. Half a month had passed by now, so her supplies should have been looted long ago. How did she last this long? I stayed silent, quietly opening the surveillance on my phone. Finally, I understood everything. A few days ago, the residents confronted Joanro again, blaming her for their lack of water and food. It was all Joanro's fault, they claimed. Joanro could only hide behind my husband, her eyes terrified as she faced the neighbors on the verge of collapse. In the crowd, someone shouted, "No water."
Then drain her blood. Blood can quench thirst too.
As soon as the words fell, a fruit knife suddenly stabbed toward her. Lingy tried to dodge, but Joanro clung to him desperately. Lingy's eyes widened as if he wanted to say something, but then he saw Joanro backing away, her hands covered in blood.
He's human too, his blood is more. Drink his.
The crowd fell silent for a moment, but soon, the heat and thirst twisted their humanity to its peak again. The scene quickly turned bloody. Watching the surveillance footage, my phone clattered to the ground. I closed my eyes, my body trembling uncontrollably. Tears finally spilled from the corners of my eyes. Because in the corner, I saw my son lying there, covered in blood. Even though in my past life, he pushed me off the balcony, he was still the child I carried for 10 months. Perhaps this was a retribution for my husband and son. Now, Joanro had completely lost her humanity. I quickly pulled out the SIM card and snapped it in half, afraid she might track me through my phone. That night, on the road not far from the house, a car suddenly appeared. I stared intently at the surveillance. The car stopped next door. 2 men got out of the car. At first, I thought they were the neighbors. But soon, something felt off. They knocked on the door first. When no one answered, they turned back and grabbed an axe from the car. They directly smashed the neighbor's door lock. After about half an hour, the 2 men walked out of the neighbor's house, looking unsatisfied. Then they headed straight toward my front door. That night, on the road not far from the house, a car suddenly appeared. I stared intently at the surveillance. The car stopped next door. 2 men got out of the car. At first, I thought they were the neighbors. But soon, something felt off. They knocked on the door first. When no one answered, they turned back and grabbed an axe from the car. They directly smashed the neighbor's door lock. After about half an hour, the 2 men walked out of the neighbor's house, looking unsatisfied. Then they headed straight toward my front door. My heart instantly tightened. They saw my front door wasn't easy to open, so they decided to climb over the wall. But as they got higher, one of them let out a scream. Turns out, the glass shards on the wall cut his palm. One of them immediately lost his nerve.
Let's just go, man. We got enough supplies in the car for days.
He said while backing away. But the other guy wasn't giving up. No way.
We've come this far. We have to check it out. What if there's supplies hidden inside?
So they drove the car right up to the wall, used the car as a stepping ladder, and put a car mat on top of the wall. One guy stepped on the mat and climbed over, but the next second, he let out a blood-curdling scream. Turns out, the moment he jumped down, he landed right on the bear trap I had set earlier. The guy outside was startled by the scream. He ditched his buddy and drove off. The guy stuck in the trap struggled in pain for a while, finally managed to get the trap off. He painfully crawled into the living room, found no supplies or medicine in the house, and he didn't even notice the basement. Could only sit helplessly on the ground. Seemed to already know his fate. I didn't save him because I knew in this apocalyptic world, the slightest act of kindness could bring death upon myself. Every day, I monitored the outside through the cameras, but I never expected to see Zhou Wanru on this day. Yet the next second, she was carried away by a group as if she were livestock. Days passed, and the temperature remained unbearably high. Supplies in the basement were visibly dwindling. For long-term survival, I started growing some vegetables in the basement. Life became even more cautious, calculating every bite of food, every drop of water, until another half a year passed. Finally, some good news arrived this day.
Breaking news. After relentless research by agricultural experts, super drought-resistant potatoes have been successfully developed. These potatoes can thrive under extreme heat and water scarcity, significantly alleviating the current food shortage crisis.
But I knew food alone wasn't enough. The priority in this heat apocalypse was solving the water problem, so I still didn't dare leave the basement. And reality proved my decision right. Until a year later, when a hailstorm arrived. Only then did the scorching apocalypse truly end.